Hello, welcome to the HR Headroom podcast powered by Certification Edge. I'm your host, Odion Sigwe Emike, and like I always say, here is your safe space where we get to talk about your HR insights, knowledge, experiences. Think of us as a little time travel session where we talk about the past, the present, and the future in HR. With me today is actually Miss Oluwatobi Oyeleye SPHRi. Welcome to the show, ma.
Thank you, Odion.
It's so wonderful to have you. You know, you are one of the, what do we call you? One of the big guys in HR. You've got your SPHRi.
Yeah.
How was that for you? How it has been the experience been? Tell us.
It's been wonderful. It's been so good, and it's feel like being on top of the world. Feel like you're on top of your game,
I can
your
imagine.
profession, and you are just like feel like, oh, I'm there one way or the other, because you have all the the technicalities, you have
Right.
all the knowledge that you need. Of course, you're learning on a
Right.
daily basis. You're still learning, but at the same time, you have some things to offer.
It really does change things for you, doesn't it? To have that certification.
It does.
It does.
It does. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that, man. So you've got, like we said, you've got your SPHRI. So we can even be confident today that what we're going to talk about is a professional that's teaching us about this. And today, actually, we're going to be talking about recruitment. We're going to be talking about the biases that you may find while you are recruiting a new employee. Because, Miss Oluwatobi, recruitment, let's say this era, has changed from 10 years ago. And if it has changed, it's a little more AI powered, I should think. In fact, as of last year, I saw that a lot of people were doing those AI headshots. Nobody wanted to take a picture again for their CV, right?
Yeah.
So if those things as simple as that has changed, I would assume that the biases that we had, or the stereotypes that we had about the perfect candidate 10 years ago has to have changed, right?
Sure.
So I'd just like you to talk with us today about the, potential biases that people would face when they are meeting a recruiter, or that you have encountered, while recruiting. What are those biases?
Yeah, there are so many biases, as I want to relay with some of them. In the past, when you go for interview, what we're looking for is majorly the appearance.
The appearance?
Yes, majorly your appearance matters in any interview.
Right.
And it still matters today to some extent. And you can see people talk about, doing what they want to, seeing you do what they want you to do.
Okay.
In terms of practical, in terms of there's what we call this test. You first of all go through series of tests. In those days, you do aptitude tests, intelligence tests, so many kind of tests, So at the end of the day, you have a kind of short list of like maybe few names, and then you start taking them through the series of, stages, another stage, maybe second stage, third stage, and all that, depending on the organization. But nowadays, I think there are so many things have changed drastically, and people are no longer doing, you do this test. Then after test, you now do this exam. After this exam, you come for this practical.
Exactly.
Before you now see the CEO, or you see the MD.
Right.
Nobody has time for all this stuff. Sometimes you just have to do your interview online. Just connect. You can connect with Zoom, Skype, or anything. You can just do phone calls.
Right.
What do you have to offer? Especially if you're working on remote, you don't need to see your staff. You can be in Nigeria and recruit for somebody in US. So things has changed drastically, and it's not business as usual the way we used to do it.
If it's not business as usual, right? And especially because you talked about remote interviews, online interviews. So imagine, for example, that you were conducting an interview on someone online, and you saw that person maybe, well, this is of course, I'm not saying this is wrong, or you saw that person with stereotypically what in Nigeria we all our parents are always wary about. You saw that person with dreadlocks. You saw that person with an unbuttoned shirt. He's that person with an unbuttoned shirt. And you just saw generally, he's not wearing a tie.
Yeah.
Right? And he comes, he knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
But when you see that person immediately, what is the first impression? Should we follow through with that impression that we have?
For me, I'll follow through. I mean, what I mean by I'll follow through, I'll follow through with the interview. I'm not going to judge the person, because he's on dreads or because he's on necklace as a guy or because he's on something. You don't want to judge the person as long as you know the person has what you are looking for.
Right.
So what you are looking for is the talent, the potential, what the person has to offer, and that matters most, especially for remote workers. For remote workers. So you don't need to, bother yourself, is this. And sometimes, when you are interviewing someone online, you are not likely to see the height. So you are not likely to see the height. So that's why some roles are better interviewed physically. Right. Especially if it has to do with a brand, a particular thing you're looking for that you want the person to deliver. Yeah. You have to actually do that physically. But for a remote worker, I see no reason for any bias.
Any bias.
But
would that be different from a worker that's working, in the office?
It will be different from a worker working in the office, because for someone working in the office, you have some things you are looking for. Okay. You have some, a kind of brand you are protecting. You have some kind of, for someone working physically, you have some kind of level of what I want to see, like, so the person is more like your ambassador. Right. So that's why if I'm here in Nigeria working for a company in the UK, they care less about what I wear or whether I'm short, whether I'm fat, whether I'm big, whether I'm... What they want is, okay, these are the things, these are the targets, these are the goals, these are what we want from you.
How can you meet those targets?
As long as you are meeting the targets, you are delivering their results, you are giving them what they are asking for, you are presenting your reports at the normal time, you don't have problem.
So we're talking about, the biases. We're asking ourselves, how is it that... I remember that picture that I drew up about the dreadlock person that came in. We're talking about, and I mentioned, you were talking about how an online personality would be different to how someone in the office should be dressing like. Yeah. So I'm a bit curious about how you bring in that balance, right? Of saying that this online person should we should not be necessarily looking at their appearance, but what you said that was so significant was how we should be thinking about our brand, our culture. Yeah. When you are bringing a new professional. So can you just explore that?
What I mean by that is, like, okay, let's say I want to use two scenarios. Let's say in my office, I have some people working from home, and I have some people resuming in the office every day. Right. Definitely, when you are working from home, you're at your comfort zone, so you can be in your bedroom and be working. Yes. So definitely for a remote worker, you don't stress yourself about whether they're
wearing loungewear,
whether they're on dreadlocks or they're on this or on that. Right. And same goes for when you are interviewing them. Yeah. When you are interviewing them, they are in their house. So you don't insist on, it must be on tie, it must be on suit. You can, of course, you don't expect him to put on underwears. Right. But definitely wear something, smart enough to attract you as a recruiter. So, but for someone working in the office, coming to the office every day, it's a different ball game. Because when you are going to your workplace on a daily basis, you definitely want to look good and look smart, and protect your brand, protect your image, the image of your company. You don't want to, like, okay, if you're working in a bank, you don't want to go to bank with your flowing baggy jeans or something, or baggy trousers or t-shirts, because it's a brand that you protect. Yeah. And so that's why when we are hiring or we are recruiting people, we want to, you need to look at, what your brand says. Is about, and companies has policies. You have what we do, how people recognize this is GT, or this is this bank, or this is this company. So definitely everybody has their brands. But in recruitment, we need to let go of biases when it comes to how people look, their sizes, their heights, their shapes, or anything.
I'm very interested in what you're saying about brand and culture, because how maybe a doctor, imagine your doctor walked in and your doctor is looking all shabby. He's wearing shorts, and he's wearing just I don't know, maybe sort of a singlet or something.
Yeah.
He's not looking terrible, but that's not how you would expect a doctor to wear, to look like, I mean. So it's about the brand, about the culture, it's about the goal.
Yes.
And that's very interesting. But I want to sort of backtrack to some certain appearances that are not always about the clothes that you wear.
Okay.
For example, you know how the bias we have about people that are plus size.
Okay.
Right? You just imagine, this person will not be smart in the office. This person will just be very slow in the office. You know, there's always that bias around plus size people. Or a shorter person. This person does not command respect. Right? He doesn't look like a leader at all. So sometimes you'll be very shocked. Sometimes some shorter people are denied managerial roles because they are short. So they don't look like who can lead, right? So how do you, as a HR professional, just evaluate yourself to ensure that you're not putting biases that you've learned on a potential talent or someone that is potentially going to be a high performer, right?
Yeah, when you are hiring such people, the first thing you are looking for, of course, I don't look at the height or the size. And also, it also depends on the role.
The role?
Now, yes, it depends on the role you are hiring for. If you are hiring for a particular position that you need somebody very tall to handle, if you put a short somebody who's short on such role, it's like you are putting a square peg in a round hole, because he will find it difficult.
Okay.
Yes, let me look at. I don't know the kind of role I want to use as an example, but let's say
maybe a bouncer.
A bouncer, yeah, that's good. That's a good one. Or a security guy.
Okay.
So if you put someone very short as your security officer, very short, when people comes in and you can't park here, you can, they want to look at who is this?
It's not imposing.
Yes. So sometimes is the way you manage it matters. You don't tell someone in an interview table that, you are too short for this role. We can't hire you because you are too short. No.
Right.
You know what you are looking for. So if the person had actually applied, you don't have to tell him. He already knows that he's short, or he already knows that he's fat. So telling him is you are telling me you are worthless. We don't need you here. And that can actually, affect him one way or the other. Right. So that's why when you are looking for, when you are hiring, you need to look at what am I looking for? Because that's why we have job specification. So when you are sending out you want to attract the right talents, you give your specification. We don't see it as bias.
Okay.
We look at it as it's a specification. That's why
that's what the job needs.
That's what the job needs. So it's not bias in per se. When you say, okay, this role is for a female, or this role is for a male, or you say this role is for ages. Sometimes they say we should not put ages. Okay. But there are some roles that a younger person will function better than an older person. And there are roles that you need someone who is older. So you have to put your specification. And part of your specification is also to say, this person must have BSc in this, or must have MBA, or these are the specifications. So if you have put that specification and the person still applies, it's because the person feels that I am
capable,
qualified, I'm capable, I can do it. So if the person, you are able to shortlist the person because you have not seen the size or the height, or whether it's fat or slim, you have not seen that. So the person feels I'm capable, so the person applied. So when the person comes to the interview room and you now look at every other things and you think that the person actually qualified, but the only clause is either the height or you don't have to say it out. You don't have to say it out and you're too fat for this role. Like, let me give an example. I'm from hospitality industry. Let's say I want to hire a waiter, and Now a guy is coming with pot belly. So I said, oh, how are you going to carry tray for our guests with this your pot belly? The guy already knows he has pot belly.
Yes.
And so me telling him is like, oh,
you're embarrassing him.
Go and work on your pot belly,
Yeah.
It's like, it's like you have, I don't know how to say it. So that's justice. So telling the guy you have pot belly doesn't make sense.
Right.
All I'm looking for is, does he have the skill? Does he have everything I need? And if he has it, and the only reason why I'm not going to take him is because of this pot belly, I don't have to tell him.
Right.
Then I look elsewhere for the right person that I'm looking for, that can fit into the role. So telling people in the interview room or telling them this, or your hair is this because of that, I'm not going to, doesn't really
I think what you've said right now, initially we're talking about biases, and already there's the tendency to have such a skewed view. They think, oh, these people are so biased because I don't look a certain way, I don't talk a certain way, I don't dress a certain way. But what you've done that's so excellent, I think, is to give a differentiation between a bias and a specification.
Yeah.
To say that there's just some roles you can't do just because you can't do them, not because it's a bias. Or maybe because of you talked about male or female, because of a gender balance.
Yeah.
We would prefer a male in this role or a female in this role. Because of maybe if you're heavy lifting a lot, we would prefer someone who's taller, someone who's bulkier. That is a job specification.
Exactly.
Not a bias.
Not a bias.
But when it doesn't, there's nothing in the role that dictates, oh, you're supposed to look a certain way, you're supposed to have certain things, and you are still you're still biased towards that person. That's when we will start having a problem to say,
this is real body shaming.
This is real body shaming. And in 2024, you don't want to be caught body shaming at all.
At all. At all.
The cancel culture is real. Okay. So, but what I'm very interested in is you've talked about all of this. Is there maybe, let's go a little personal.
Okay.
Has there been any personal encounter that you've had with a bias while recruiting or while being recruited?
Okay, I've had so many of that. Let me give my own example first. I remember some years ago, over 15 years ago, I applied for a role and I got the job. Now, I'm bringing pregnancy into
pregnancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's part of biases.
It is.
So when I got the job, I wasn't pregnant when I got the job.
Right.
But I think the second month, I was pregnant.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, how am I going to tell my boss that I'm pregnant? And it became a very serious issue. And I was then working with a professor.
Okay.
So he knew immediately. And when he knew, he called me.
Yes.
Are you pregnant? I said, I don't think I have to tell you if I'm pregnant. So he said, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was bold.
I don't think I have to tell you if I'm pregnant. And by the way, I'm not even sure if I'm pregnant. I've not confirmed from my doctor.
Right.
So I was like, how did this man know I'm pregnant? So I think he felt like, what kind of a staff is this? Why is she need to tell me immediately? I feel like, you're not my husband. Why should I tell you I'm pregnant immediately? Because I was still young then.
Yes.
Why should I tell you I'm pregnant? And I didn't sign anything that says in this role you must not be pregnant for the first 2 years. I didn't sign anything. So I was like, oh, I'm newly married. So definitely
so there's a possibility.
There's possibility. So I said, well, so at the end of the day, it now changed my office. I had to take, the staircase to the 4th floor every day.
Just because you were pregnant?
Yes, just because I was pregnant. So I had to take the 4th floor every day. So I was like, this is serious. So what will I do? And I need this job.
As a punishment for being pregnant.
So I had to look at, you just have to weigh the options.
Right.
Which one is my health or the job? So I had to resign.
Oh.
So sometimes the way pregnancy is a kind of a re-bias to some extent, and especially to some roles.
Right.
Like if you're looking for a sales manager
Right.
that needs to move here and there, and the person is pregnant, sometimes it's not always easy.
Yeah.
So that's why I am also still looking at it. Of course, they may not be the same. When you look at pregnancy, it's like a bias, but at the same time, you don't need a pregnant woman for a sales manager.
Right.
So it will look as if it's a kind of bias, but it's also like this is the specification of the person we are looking for.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful, you just need to know which one is actually a bias or which one is actually a specification.
Right.
So that's for my own experience when I was working. And then the other experience I had is several times when I interview people.
Okay.
They come in anyhow. There was a day I had to interview, I think, a waiter also. And in fact, looking at him from head to toe, I was like, oh, are you sure you have come for this interview?
Yeah.
Why are you dressed like this? Because if I have to present you to my guest as a waiter, are you sure the person will eat the food? No, in my thinking, that was what was going on in my mind.
Okay.
That I'm like, so when you're coming in for the role of a waiter, I expect to tell you to dress smartly. Just be smart and neat. You don't have to be extravagant. You don't need to wear something so big, but be neat and smart with whatever you are wearing. So I have also had that several times with people that comes for interview. They dress. In fact, one came for interview on a bedroom slippers.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious.
Wow.
Interview, and I was like, bedroom slippers? Do you know you are coming for this interview? He said, yes. Somebody just called me.
And he just ran.
And and when you're coming, you don't even think you should put in some look.
Just make some effort.
Exactly. So sometimes people don't just care. Let me just go. Let me see. They will hire me and all. So especially with all these junior roles kind of.
And that actually reveals something about that person's personality.
Exactly. Right. So when others could be okay, you are fat, you are thin, like somebody who wants to work as a kitchen assistant is very fat.
Yeah.
So how do you want to cope in the kitchen with the kitchen stress? Those are things that we see on a daily basis, but there are ways to manage it.
Right.
Ways to manage it is not telling that person directly, especially when you see people that are fat. You don't tell them because they already know they are fat. But when somebody dressed shabbily, you can always say, what? The way you dress is the way you be addressed.
Right.
And your impression matters a lot. So that's why my own experience, I think, when I was pregnant, and then I see a lot on the interview table.
I think there's a lot, for us, as HR professionals to evaluate when we are recruiting, when we're getting new talent. And I'm very thankful for this interview we've had with you, because you've sort of just brought, like I said before, that difference between a bias and a specification. So thank you very much, Ma, for taking us through this journey, taking us through everything. It was such a wonderful session with you. And if you want to, hear in or listen in to more wonderful sessions like this, make sure to come visit us again here at HR Headroom Podcast. Thank you so much. I've been your host, Odion Osigwe Emike. Have a good day.
Thank you.